Hey everybody, Xeno back here for another Mega Man game. This time on the chopping block we have Mega Man for Game Boy, or Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge as it's called for some reason. I usually just refer to this game as Mega Man 1 Game Boy because that's pretty much what it is, and all the rest of the Game Boy games just have numbers as their titles, so not sure why this one was different. Either way, this will be a smaller and shorter project. I have been a little busier than usual lately and haven't had time to commit to replaying Mega Man Rock and Roll, for instance. And I thought that maybe recording this and perhaps the other Game Boy titles in the interim might be some good, I wouldn't call it filler, but something that's a bit lower stakes for me. So hopefully you all will enjoy, because these games are fairly interesting despite most of them having recycled content. Of course, Mega Man 5 Game Boy gives the most to talk about. For those not in the know, it has original bosses and characters, as opposed to the rest, which just recycle assets. Anyways, here on the main title screen, it's pretty plain. Still better than Mega Man 1 on the NES, to be quite frank. I do like this title theme, it's pretty nice. We're not going to bother with the password screen, of course, because we have the power of a real copy played on real hardware, trademark. Anyways, we get a choice of 4 Robot Masters in this, and this will be a staple of the Game Boy games, is that they're split up in a way where you have 4 selectable stages at the start, and then some intermission, and then usually 4 more Robot Masters. This one is a little different and a little shorter, which will make this series extra short. Probably will only require 2 videos unless I end up yapping a lot. Either way, no Bomb Man, no Guts Man, but other than that, we got the Mega Man 1 cast here ready to throw down. So we're going to go ahead and do what most people do and pick Cut Man. So what's interesting about this game is that the environments are actually decently different than the NES game in a lot of ways. And unlike the rest of the Game Boy games that reuse assets, the themes, the tracks in this game are actually unique kind of remixes, sort of. As you can hear with Cutman's theme, it's not quite like the NES version. It's got a bit different rhythm to it, a different kind of funk. And I actually really like most of these remix tracks. I think they're really interesting. A lot of composers or chiptune artists pay homage to these tunes. Sometimes, like Rush Jet in the soundtracks included a little bit of the snippets from these songs, actually, when he was doing his Mega Man 1 series. I like how Cutman's stage in this game looks like it's in a warehouse. I kind of like that, as opposed to just the outside factory place that he got in the original. Let's talk controls for a moment here, after I dispatch the screwdriver. So this game feels a little slower than the NES version. Jumping especially feels a tad more sluggish. Bullets feel a little more sluggish, but you can still have 3 on screen at a time. Never really was a fan of the Game Boy sound effect for the bullets. It sounds very limp by comparison to the original. Screwdriver, interestingly enough, also, they only shoot 1 volley instead of multiple, and the bullets are also larger. But other than that, these enemies are the same as they usually are. We're gonna try and run right past. These cutting wheel enemies are original to this game, and they're pretty interesting. There are several variants. Some of them... Nice. I'm probably going to fail. I'm not even going to bother, actually. Trying to get that life is a fool's errand for the most part. You got your spines here. So several variants of these cutting wheels. Some drop down, some just roll on the floor by default. They're pretty tanky, to be honest. I think they take 6 hits or so. Some of them have momentum. Like, this one has crazy momentum on it. It bounces around a lot. So interesting stuff. I appreciate tossing in new enemies and not just completely redoing what the NES game did. Like, this has its own flair to it that I quite appreciate. Makes it feel more original. I would describe this game as being fairly challenging, especially for a newcomer. It does pull a few dirty tricks, especially in the later stages. It's not going to become evident until a bit later, because these early stages aren't the worst, but the fortress stages, or whatever this game has at the end that could be classified as kind of a fortress, has quite a few bizarre and unpleasant tricks. Oh, okay. I was actually in the perfect spot to be able to hit this guy. We got Mega Man 2 Sniper Joes in this, which is interesting. There will be a lot of crossover content between 1 and 2 in this game, which, as I mentioned earlier, is kind of a staple of the Mega Man Game Boy lineup up until 5. They all have a little hodgepodge of the content from both games, which, for the sequels, I'll get to talking about in due time. One interesting and very obnoxious thing about Big Eyes in this is that they only take damage when they're in the air. And you could see that right there. That completely screwed me over pretty much. They're not any more predictable than the NES versions, just more obnoxious pretty much. Which, you know, that's great. Really, a lot of these setups are just kind of annoying and not much else. Like trying to fight a Sniper Joe on a single block wide area. These cutters. Alright, nice. That's the stage, though. You got these boss doors, which are weird and horizontal, and take up, like, one entire screen. A little odd. So Cutman in this is actually fairly challenging. The boss AI is pretty significantly changed by not only the small screen size, but you'll notice that Cutman doesn't take any knockback anymore. So he's, funnily enough, actually one of the more challenging bosses this time around, I would say. Some of the bosses have become significantly easier as a result of their conversion to Game Boy size, but Cutman is not one of them. But interestingly enough, it doesn't look like his cutter really goes up in the air that much anymore. He mostly only shoots it horizontally. It's kind of hard to dodge him the way it's set up, especially with the no knockback. Most of the weapons are essentially unchanged from their NES counterparts. Rolling Cutter is about the same as it ever was. Alright, we're gonna follow weakness order, so let's hop straight into Elec Man's stage. I also think the song here is quite nice. It's very pleasant. It's a little more chipper than the NES version, which is kinda cool. Get Yoku blocks on the first screen, so just, you know, warning you of things to come. I kind of like this version of the Elec Man beam obstacle a little more than the NES version. It feels a little less obnoxious. No, that's not less obnoxious. The game pulls stuff like that fairly often. Just like little insidious tricks like that. There we go. Thankfully, the developers aren't terribly mean-spirited in this one, minus a couple various egregious instances in the later stages, but you got these fans here which kind of spice things up a little bit and just barely missed that. You saw nothing. Got Susie's on this screen. There were none in Cutman stage, interestingly enough. Alright. Part of the stage takes place in this cool outdoor area, which has a little bit of Airman DNA in it, interestingly enough. The Lightning Lords, I forget if they appear... Yeah, actually, they do appear in Airman stage in 2 Game Boy. But they're here as well, with slightly different behaviors. They shoot their bolts horizontally instead of in an arc. And that's just a short little interlude almost. A very interesting inclusion. Not sure what the idea behind that was, but it worked. Cool. Okay, let's see. Okay, that actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I haven't played this game in quite a while, for reference. I don't find myself revisiting it terribly often because in this day and age, 30 years down the line, there's not really much reason to play this over the original Mega Man 1 on NES if you're really fixing to fight these robots. The fan does add some intrigue into this stage, but definitely just kind of annoying overall. Alright, that's... Yeah, nice try. I got him. I would say overall, Elec Man stage isn't terribly hard. Probably easier than the NES version, funnily enough. Although the stage was never really the issue in the first place. More so the boss encounter that was just borderline unfair, to be honest. Elec Man is very toned down in this version, which we'll get to discussing pretty shortly. He might actually be the easiest boss of the first few this time around, although Fireman doesn't put up much of a fight either. This area, which is kind of reminiscent of the last few screens of the base Elec Man stage. Oh boy. Oh, okay, nice. Rolling Cutter actually does a pretty good job dispatching this guy. Oh, and it goes through shields. I completely forgot about that, actually. Interesting. That's pretty handy, actually. Huh. Anyways, Elec Man. He is greatly nerfed in this version. Not only does he do much less damage, but he moves in such a way where it's decently easier to dodge his shots. Sometimes they just go right through you. But he kind of just walks around and shoots from 3 spots on the floor, much like the NES counterpart. Nothing terribly interesting about him, other than him being a bit easier. You can manipulate him into jumping somehow. There's a great series on this game's boss AI by a different Mega Man YouTuber that you can consult if you're more curious, but I'm just here to inform you that he's not terribly that much different than the NES counterpart, minus being easier on account of not killing you in 3 hits. It's only been 11 minutes, so we'll go ahead and do Iceman as well. We can probably do this game. This is probably a 2-parter, given how this is going pretty fast already. Iceman stage here, not terribly different. A few more of these bounders at the beginning, or Bunby Hellies, not bounders. It's the other enemy. No crazy raisies in this one, which oh, okay. Not sure how fair that was, but that's fine. We got health here. We can accept that, I suppose. The remix of Iceman's theme is also interesting. Pretty catchy. I like it. There isn't a single one of these remixes that I think is badly done, to be quite frank. This terrain is very slippery. Got the worm makers from Mega Man 2 in this stage. Quite a few Mega Man 2 enemies that make it into the first 2 stages here. Really not a fan of how slippery this stage is. This game already feels quite slippery to control on the default terrain, so the ice just adds an entirely different layer to that. Now here's an interesting mechanic that's completely unique to this version of the stage. These icicles that fall from the ceiling and can be used as platforms. Definitely an interesting inclusion. Oh, and I think I've screwed myself over. Oh, okay, no. They don't count as ice terrain, interestingly enough, it looks like. And that's all she wrote as far as that goes. Yeah, Rolling Cutter really is good at dispatching the big eyes in this version. Gotta give it credit for that. Pretty satisfying. Got more Sniper Joes. In this game, they appear to fire as soon as the shield is up, which is very, very irritating. There we go. Yeah, Rolling Cutter actually does a pretty good job at cleaning up in this stage overall. Good for the worm machines, Bunby Hellies. Pretty good on the Joes as well. Oh, that was a hole. And that's about it. Yeah, that icicle mechanic feels very underused in this, but it's pretty cool. It's better than reusing Yoku blocks again, I gotta say. So, slightly better on the ice theming. To my knowledge, Iceman's behavior, aside from only shooting 2 icicles instead of 3, is largely unchanged. He goes back and forth. I believe he speeds up in the same way that he does in the NES version. But on account of only having 2 layers of ice projectiles to dodge, he's quite easy. I'll try taking a hit to see if he still does like a metric ton of damage, but we'll see. Yeah, I just want to see him speed up, because I'm fairly sure that behavior is intact. It's a very odd default behavior, but yeah, it looks like he's getting faster. Always found it very peculiar how Iceman is the only Robot Master ever to just kind of speed up like that. And yeah, he does still do a lot of damage. Fairly easy to dodge, though. Would also not be a terrible pick as a first stage if you can navigate the obstacles in the stage. And Ice Slasher is the same as ever. Not much to comment on there. We'll tackle Fireman and the rest of the game in the next episode, which will definitely wrap this up. This game is incredibly short, so two-parter like I said. Thank you all for watching. This is Xeno, signing off. Bye-bye.